Look at my shoes.
It's always that guy.
Yeah, I bought them for this podcast.
Stop. All right, I'm just going to go into it.
Yeah. Just go into it.
Okay, ready? What's up, everybody? However you're listening to this, maybe you're watching it. We are so excited. I don't know about just me. Are you guys excited?
so excited.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's talk about
See
it.
the cup. I'm very proud that this is our home church. If you haven't checked out The Way Family Church, we invite you to watch another video. Sermons are up here. We go live every single Sunday.
10 a.m.
We would be nothing without the house, so
Right.
I'll drink to that.
What's in that, T?
Juice. So how have you guys been? You guys okay?
We're doing great. Doing good.
You guys just celebrated your 1 year. That's
1 year.
exciting.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, a little bit about us. We're engaged. They're dating.
Yep.
They've been dating over a year.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm Paloma.
I'm Dylan. First of all of us are on staff here at the church.
Yes.
Paloma and I serve in the media realm on Sundays, on social media, graphic design, all that kind of stuff. My technical title is media director. Paloma is my assistant media director. So those are both of our titles.
Dream
and
team. The dream team.
On to you guys.
Go for it.
Okay, my name is Ariana. I do team strategist here at The Way, so anything that involves teams and getting things going, that's my job. I love what I do, and I love who I do it with. And then this is my fiance, Talon.
Yeah, I'm the worship director here at The Way, and whatever else they want me to do,
Yeah.
I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Dad's watching this, and we all have a good heart when you ask us to do whatever it is you want us to do.
I think we're the youngest church staff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
no
is
doubt.
actually fire.
And the healthiest church environment staff I've ever seen, too.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
No shade.
Let's just go right into it. We were thinking long and very hard on what to say today. And something that we think everyone could ask themselves and just reevaluate, especially in this time. I've been reevaluating a lot about my life. And kind of a major thing that God put on our hearts is, do we really know God? Not just know about him, not just a fan of him. We know, he died on the cross for us and he loves us, but do we have an intimate and a personal relationship with God? And I don't think that this is something that could just be answered in a 30-minute, however long this is going to be, video or podcast. I think it's something that we're going to have to ask ourselves every single day. But I love the people that we're doing this with because we each have a different story. We're all walking towards Christ, but our journeys have looked different. And I think that God uses each individual perspective and journey to reach whoever's watching this. And that's our prayer today, is that as we're figuring this out, as we're talking about this, that you would be more inspired to know God more and, to continue to press on to him. Because that's what we need in this hour, is to keep going forward. Yeah. And I think of everything that's going on in the world. It feels like everything's slowed down. And a fear of mine is that us as Christians, we can let our surrounding almost dictate our spiritual journey. And I don't want us to just go through the motions. I don't think God designed us to go through the motions. I think he's always called us to go further, to go faster, to continue to chase him in every single area of our life, and no matter what time it is. And as we attack this huge, ambiguous question, do we really know God? What does that mean? When I think of do I know God, I think of relationship.
Right.
And I love that you guys are a couple, and Ariana and I are a couple. It's not enough for me just to know of my fiance, to know her name and know what color eyes she has. it's not enough just to know about her. I have to know her. I have to spend time with her. We have to go out on dates. We
Yeah.
have to talk things
Be
out.
intentional.
Exactly. We have to do life together.
Yes.
And I want to directly compare that to our relationship with God.
It's good.
How many of us just know of God, but we don't make any effort to spend time with him? And something that I really wanted to touch on was found in Proverbs. And give me a second to open that up real quick. In Proverbs 8:17, it says, I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me.
So good.
And I think some of us get so lost in this idea of, I personally have never seen God. I've never seen him in physical form. I've never heard him open up the sky and speak to me directly. And I think that some of us think that if he doesn't do that, then we're so far from him.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be the opposite of the truth. You know, we find God in the silence. We find God in the moments of our life when we press pause on everything else. And I just love this verse because God is saying, those who look for me, they're going to find me. Yeah. You don't have to be born a certain way. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to come from a certain family. You can be anyone, anywhere in life. And if you're just seeking God, he says that, hey, you'll find me. But how many of us are actually seeking? So my question for us today is, how do you practically seek God in your day-to-day life?
So good.
And anybody can jump in if they want. I would love to hear you guys' answers. And how do you guys do that?
Well, I think practically, all of us can agree that we're in the Word a lot. I think that's what comes from our leadership. Our pastor is just, he really encourages us and sets the standard of being in the Word daily. But I think in this season, one of the other big things for me right now is when I'm driving, it's just completely silent.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any music on, and in those times it's just not even prayer, but just trying to listen, trying to have a conversation, not asking for anything, but just like God, like seeking wisdom, like sensing where to go, like because being young, we have to be led to do what we do, you know, like whether it's sets, leading people, like how do we reach people online? So and those times for me, I'm just in the silence, just trying to be in his presence and not make it complicated, not have to blast worship music, but just like what you just read, just seeking him in those silent moments has been really huge for me in this season because I mean there's a lot of content on our phones, on YouTube, on all that kind of stuff. So just being able to kind of shut all of that off, for even if it's 10-15 minutes going down the freeway, like that could be the most impactful 10-15 minutes of your day.
Right.
Is one of the biggest things for me right now. So
It's good.
And I think like what you're talking about, like in the silence, God says he's always a whisper away. And the Bible also says to continually pray. And that doesn't necessarily mean having to like, oh, thank you, Lord, for this. You know, it means just having a constant communication with him, you know, throughout your day and just
A constant awareness.
Yeah. A constant awareness of like, am I, you know, it's not about like, God, should I wear these shoes today? No, like that. But I mean like, just being aware and like even, you know, going to have a conversation with a friend saying, God, give me the words to speak to my friend about.
Including him in your day.
Exactly.
Right.
Like being, you know, just like you would talk to like your best friend, you know, you mention the little things to each other, you know, you mention what's on your heart and you mention, you know, you just ask for help whenever you need it too.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, one of the biggest ways I do seek him is through prayer. And I know it's really cliche and all of that, but I just love setting my day just straight away, right when I wake up. I just find that helps me to know, to be aware. Like you were saying, just first and foremost, I just pray. And what that does for me is just set my day where it needs to be. That way when I am driving, or another thing for me is just thankfulness. And I realize when I wake up and I'm just so thankful for him, and I just recognize and tell him like, I see you, I know that you're so good, and as I'm driving I see the sky and I'm just so thankful just for how beautiful the sky is, or like you're saying, it just helps me really include him in my life when I just set that tone of thankfulness and for gratitude and just to just start my day with him. And that kind of helps me throughout the day seek him and feel him and be aware of him and include him. Yeah. So I would say that's what I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the story of David, because it said that he would often inquire of the Lord. And I don't think I've ever seen a more successful resume in the Bible than David. He was a winner. He was a king, and everything that he put his hand to, it prospered.
Right.
And the one secret that I did know about his life, it says that David was a man after God's own heart, meaning that he chased God's heart into everything that he did. He inserted it, he included it. So maybe for some of us, finding God in a moment is inquiring of him, like, hey, God, even before we had this talk, is God, what do you want us to talk about? Yeah. We're inquiring of him. Yeah. And I think that as long as we're including God in our life, we're going to know him more. Yeah. And the more that we inquire of him and the more that we ask of him, we're going to begin to learn his heart. Yeah. And we won't necessarily be asking questions that we know, like, oh, that's not his heart. I don't even need to ask that anymore. Because we spend so much time with him and we know him. You know, I spend so much time with you. I know you. Yeah. I know what you like. I know what you don't like. I know your heart because I spend time with you. And I think that the listeners who are at home, just learning to inquire of him, to seek him, you'll never miss him. Yeah. He promises that. That's his word, that if you look for him, you'll find him. Yeah. So how encouraging is that? Yes, you listening. You may not even be a Christian. Yep. God is inviting you in. And he says, look for me and I'll meet you right there and I'll change your life forever.
I think it's so good and it's so true. And I think what Ari said, thankfulness brings such a perspective to your life that it's like even little things. God, I have gas today. Obviously we're all blessed with a job throughout this time, but it's like there's a lot of people that have struggled through this time. And just being thankful for the little things in the last few months has just brought a different perspective onto me. Like there are people out there struggling so much. So I just wanted to bring that up. Like it's such a good perspective to have. And Pastor said this quote 2 messages ago. It says, as your relationship with God goes, so goes all the rest. And that just resonated with me so much because I haven't grown up here. I've only been here 5 years. And I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I didn't grow up going to church, any of that kind of stuff. And I had an opportunity out here to come work for a ministry. And in that time was kind of where the foundation was being laid for my relationship with God. And me moving down here, hours away from my parents was kind of a leap of faith into, okay, this is me fully trusting and fully putting my faith in God. And as soon as I moved here, it was almost like the whole time has been a development of my relationship with him, and everything else has fallen into place. I've never been short. God has protected me. He's always provided for me. So it's like that relationship and that leap of faith has been everything is a byproduct of that. Everything is a byproduct of me seeking after him. Just what he read in Proverbs is everything has been a product of me just seeking God. I feel him, and I feel like this is what I got to do and move out. And that's everything up until this point. Being on staff at the Wave Family Church has been a byproduct of my relationship with God.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think we all have to assess our life.
Yeah.
And find that faith moment.
Yep.
And
what do you think that, do you guys have like a moment or a season or a situation that you had that leap of faith or that moment to that you can relate back to, like that was a pinnacle point in my relationship with God?
Yeah, and I don't think there's ever one. I think it's a continual it's a continual invitation to walk on the water, I think that Peter had such a revelation of who Jesus was because he took that leap of faith. And, I think even in my life, growing up in a Christian home, kind of different than you, sometimes we can live off of our parents' faith. And there has to become a time in our life when we experience our own faith. Wow. Not for, I know my parents pray a lot. I know that God speaks to them. I'll just let them go through all of the stepping out moments. Yeah. But I think me growing up and entering into more of adulthood, there was a lot of specific moments, even in just like personal relationships. And I just remember a distinct time when I was wrestling with a decision for a very long time. And God just so softly just spoke to my heart. And he said, you can trust me in this.
Wow.
And I had this revelation of, Talon, why do I assume control of my life? If anyone knows me better, it's the God who made me.
Right.
And so many of you out there who are listening, you can have 100% confidence in God and what he's asking you to do. And it's a big leap of faith because you're walking into the unknown. But that's where God meets you, is in your season of uncomfortability.
Yeah.
In your season of, I can't do this on my own. And that's where exactly God wants you, because he doesn't want you to be the Lord over your life.
Yeah.
It's good.
He wants to be the Lord over your life. And I just encourage you, some of you out there right now, you know of a decision that God's put on your heart. Follow him. In that moment when I said, you know what, I'm just going to trust him. And so much fruit has come from my life.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that following him and taking that leap of faith is the best decision that you could do.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, not to go too in depth with it, but yeah.
So good. I feel like my whole life in every season has changed, and it's been required of me to take a step of faith. And I almost just want to talk a little bit about what that feels like, or how do I even decide what to do, or like how do I even know what is the right thing to do, and I feel like that's what I would struggle with a lot, is it would be requiring me to do something, but I wasn't sure what is that really God? Is that really what he's telling me to do? Am I hearing him right? I don't know if he would really want me to. And I'll just use one example. It's been happening a lot, but an example I could say was there's a time where I was going through a lot with my family, and I just remember a huge blessing to be able to move across the country and be at this church that is really well known and just really grow. And it seemed like everything that was right for me personally, but within my family circumstances, it was like, why the heck would you leave your family and not be here where you need to be? And it seems so like you need to be here. Why would you ever even think about leaving right now? And I just remember literally I was like, I'll do the interview and we'll just see. And I still wasn't sold about going. I was just like, I'll just kind of follow what seems to just be laid in front of me and just see what happens. And I ended up getting exactly what I wanted, exactly where I wanted to be. They placed I don't want to get into too much details, but they placed me in the kids. And I was like, I'm not a big fan of kids. I'm not going to go, that means. And then they randomly recalled me a week later. I was like, actually, we want you to be in youth and to do our outreach. And I was just like, okay, so that's exactly what I love to do, is those two things. And it just seemed like impossible to say no, because it seemed so clearly like it was God. But then there's that practical side of like, that doesn't make sense. And I just remember just the night before, I still didn't know if I was gonna go. I didn't even pack yet. And I was supposed to be on a plane the next day. And I remember just a peace, just like, I've obviously worked this all out for you. Just follow me and just trust, and I'll work everything out here for you. And I just wanna, I guess, really emphasize that there's going to be a peace. Like, you'll just know, and it just feels right. And when you pray about it, and when you do talk to God about it, and when you do inquire God about it, it will just seem so simple and so right. And even if there's other things that are coming against it, you'll just know, and God will always provide and always come through. And that's just kind of what I wanted to touch on with that specific question, is there'll always be times where you have to do that, but just really rely on him to feel that peace and that release, and everything will work out. So
that's so good. What you said about peace, that's
Yeah.
so good. But even God will give you that supernatural peace even when things
everything else
are going crazy,
Right.
even when it looks like, it's totally the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But, when you have that relationship with God, he'll give you that peace. So I think that's really important to say, like, follow your peace.
Yeah. And that's honestly some wisdom Paloma gave me. I was inquiring to her about some stuff too, because that's what God does too, is he gives you friends that you should be able to go to. And I knew that. I grew up in church. I've heard that. But just someone to speak that sound wisdom into, I just want to thank you for that, because that was something you gave me, and now it's a wisdom of mine too. But something I want to talk about is, there's a passage in the Bible that I love, and it it's actually titled "You Will Know Them by Their Fruits." And just to recap, this whole thing that we're talking about is, do you really know God? And the first thing that came to my mind was, it's awesome because our pastor even talks about how there is a spiritual and there is a physical to every spiritual and a spiritual to every physical. And the first thing I thought of is, how do you assess if you really know him? And to me, it's so simple in the Bible. It says that it's by the fruit of your life and the fruit that's produced through your life. And I just wanted to read it. It just says, it's Matthew 7, and it says, this can go good or bad. It says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit, and a good tree cannot bear bad fruit. So, it keeps talking about it, and it just says that any tree that doesn't bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into fire. And that's just what I wanted to talk about a little bit, is encouraging us and you guys to evaluate your life and see what's the fruit that's being produced from my life. And from there, you can tell where your relationship with God is. And just some examples is, how are your friendships? How are your emotions just for yourself? Are you always I remember there's a time in my life where I just felt so emotionally drained all the time. And that shows, like, God, when he's your anchor, you can withstand anything and still be happy and still have joy and peace. And, with your relationships, with your emotions, when you walk into a room, what happens when you walk into a room? Is everybody a little bit more quiet, or are they all happy? Do you bring joy? Do you bring peace? Like, what is the fruit of your life?
I think I just want to preface is those things are things we as young people are working through.
Yeah.
And this is we're graced to have different teams. Like, you're leading a team, we're leading a team, and these are the things that we're challenged with on a week-to-week basis.
Yes.
Of like walking in on a Sunday, like we have to set that tone,
Right.
spiritually and physically,
Right.
because that fruit is going to be determined by the people that they see on a Sunday.
That's good.
And I think it's just so early on in my Christian walk, I fully understood the 360 degrees of influence, that the people around you are the people that you're going to become.
Wow.
And then the person that you become are the people that around you are going to become as well. So it's like, it works both ways. And I just,
Good.
it's crazy to see how quickly you can see someone's fruit by the way that their life is. And it's churches, like us as people, anyone else, that you can so quickly just go into that and see and determine so much from that, because it's black and white. It's not like gotta sit down and talk. It's like, no, this is God is black and white. It's either fruit or no fruit.
True.
And
Bad or good.
Yeah, bad or good.
And like you said, that's a really good way to tell where your relationship is at with God. Like, what is my life doing? How am I impacting other people? What
Right.
has my life produced so far?
What am I constantly thinking about? you
Yeah, because
know?
if you're actively pursuing God and you're actively seeking Him, just seeking His presence, seeking His word, everything else in your life is going to supernaturally line up with that, because you're supernaturally aligning yourself and your heart with God. So it's not like the spiritual relationship you have with God is going, everything else is going to reflect that.
Right.
It's your personal pursuit with God is going to determine everything with your personal pursuit with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends, your mentors, like at your work, whether you're working at Wingstop or, whatever that looks like, like that's your relationship with God is going to determine everything else with anything.
Yeah, and I love, we can gauge where we're at with fruit.
Right.
And personally, I know when I'm not in a good place, because the fruit of my life is bad. And I want to touch even just on emotions.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of us can be so emotionally unhealthy, and that's a result of our distance from God.
Yeah, so good.
And not that God ever draws away from us. It's the opposite.
Right.
It's our decisions, it's our maybe sin or whatever it may be that is allowing us
Right.
to fall away from God. And for those of you out there, maybe just take an assessment of your life. Is everything okay? You know, I know when I'm not doing good, and I know that that's a sign of, hey, have you been in your word as much?
So good.
Hey, have you been praying and carving out that time for Christ? And the answer is always the same.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I haven't. And then a direct result of that is I'm an emotional guy. I can be an emotional wreck, and things that are supposed to be this small are like this big to me. And
Dude, I can literally pinpoint situations where it's just like, just practical things. Like I just get so short tempered. I'm just like, oh, and especially if I like drink coffee and I don't have food and then I get short tempered. It's like in those moments, it's going to determine how well my relationship with God is. Because it's like, even though my body is physically, my mind is just going crazy. It's like, if I have a strong relationship with God, I'm going to be able to go to that and have peace and not be short tempered and not be emotional. So it's like, if something goes wrong with my computer, it's like I can either freak out and everything else is going to fall apart because my relationship is not strong, or it's like, oh, you know, like maybe God had that habit for a reason, you know, like have
Maybe I'm gonna get a new computer.
yeah. So like,
yeah. And last thing that I wanted to touch on is about the peace thing is like, when you walk into a relationship with Christ, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be storms.
yeah,
It's actually, it just means that, you know, Jesus, and when he was in the boat with his disciples and there was a storm, he was sleeping through it. And I think that's so beautiful, because in a world where everything seems so stormy, we can have peace.
Supernatural peace.
And like you said, like, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. Your computer doesn't work, or maybe things around you are falling apart. The fruit of your life when you're in relationship with Christ is you have this supernatural peace.
Right.
And I think that we should all be pursuing that peace, because we have too little of a lifetime to be anxious all the time, to be pulling our hair out all the time. So pursue that peace and just watch the fruit of your life just grow and be beautiful.
But I think what a conversation. I think there's a lot to unpack, and I just want to thank you for joining us. You know, this is us just doing life. We're not here. We haven't arrived. We don't live a perfect life. We're here to just be raw, be real, and to just have a conversation, to learn and glean from one another, and to hopefully speak something into your life. You know, our prayer is that you can watch this and resonate with something, and to sense God, feel his presence, and to grow with him, because that's the ultimate. There's two commandments from God: to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think once we can't have two without one. So we hope that we've spoken, we've shared, we hope that you spoke to your life. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.